Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The subject, inshallah, that we'll be taking would be the exposition of practical mysticism from the viewpoint of Ibn Sina, who is known as Avicenna. This exposition is fundamentally based on one of his very important works that he wrote during the end of his life, when he was extremely mature intellectually. When I say mature, we don't mean that maturity, that conventional kind of maturity. No, he had attained a very high level of understanding of the mystical things that he would discuss. And he wrote, one of his works that he wrote is Remarks and Admonitions. In one of the parts of this work, he has apportioned some discussions on mysticism. These discussions which he has brought about have been propounded intellectually. This is one of the beautiful and distinct characteristics of his work, that he has propounded all these mystical concepts from an intellectual point of view. So you see, intellect is a language of communication, while mystical experience cannot be a language of communication, because each individual is involved when it comes to mystical experience. So he has done a very beautiful job. Obviously, we will not be able to cover whatever he has written, because there is a lot to be covered in a small chapter that he has written on the stations of the wayfarers. Because I know that the time is very limited, for the beginning, I think let's not go to very many other discussions that don't pertain to mysticism, because if we get into those, like his life history and all that, because obviously it's important to know Avicenna is who was he, how did he contribute to philosophy, and how did he contribute to mysticism, and what is his standing in mysticism, and so on. These things have been written by different scholars. Those who would like to know about it can refer to the internet. There are very good scholarly articles written on this. So let us start on this. First of all, today the first session will concern some introductory discussions about Irfan in general. Although some of the scholars who have already come and taught you some things on Irfan, or will come, may touch on these things, but this is something that is a bit different, because there are some points that are worthy of contemplation and debatable, which inshallah I will be propounding. First, because we are going to talk about mysticism, obviously should I use the word Gnosticism or mysticism, or as some of the translators have mentioned, knowers. You see, like a mystic is known as a knower, a person who knows. This will depend on our understanding of what we are talking about. So before we go to that English term, let's go to the Arabic term that Avicenna employs, and that we in the Islamic world employ. How do we employ the term Irfan? The word Irfan simply means knowledge. Ilm also means knowledge. But there is a subtle difference between ilm and irfan. The conceptual umbrella of ilm is more comprehensive than irfan. Irfan, etymologically or linguistically, is that knowledge that you had before and you forgot and you would like to retain it. This is irfan. So you had some knowledge before in a higher plane of existence. When you came to this lower plane of existence, which is the material realm, you forgot it. Now, in order to attain, you have to struggle and go back. This definition has been given by linguistic scholars. It is not something that has been concocted by those who have written about Irfan. For example, we have a very well-known scholar known as Abu Hilal al-Askari, who has written linguistic differences between words which seem to be similar but have subtle differences. In his work, Abu Hilal al-Askari in Al-Furuq al-Lughawiyya writes, he says, Al-Ma'rifa, which of course, you see the word Irfan and Ma'rifa are from the same root, which is Arafa. He says, Al-Ma'rifa idraku shay thaniyan ba'da tawassuti nisyanihi. Let me not read the Arabic, it's better, let me just go to the English. I have translated it. He says, and it is said that Ma'rifa is to comprehend something again after forgetting the same. For this reason, the exalted truth, that is God, is known as Al-Alim, and not Al-Arif, the one who recognized. He had cognizance, now he recognizes. And this is the most well-known of opinions about the definition of Al-Ma'rifa. So, Irfan and Ma'rifa are that kind of knowledge that you had before, and you forgot it, and now you would like to retain it. And when we talk about Irfan specifically, in the terminological way, we are talking of that knowledge of God that we have lost, and now we would like to retain. So we have a linguistic definition, and we have a terminological definition. The linguistic definition is what we had discussed. The terminological definition has the difference that, the knowledge that is that we are talking about is the knowledge of God. And as inshallah we will come to discuss, when you have the knowledge of God, you have the knowledge of everything. Because when you reach the fountainhead of all knowledge, and that is God, that is the infinite existence, then whatever kind of existence which is depending on that infinite existence is also known, right? So basically, let me first enumerate the discussions that we are going to talk about, and then we will continue. First, as we just mentioned, the definition of Irfan, and then we will go to a classification of Islamic mysticism. There is a classification made by scholars of Islamic mysticism. And then the fundamental role of practical mysticism. We would like to show you that, theoretical mysticism is something which is peripheral and secondary with regard to the practical mysticism. And thereafter we'll look at the works of practical mysticism and their credibility, that if you really would like to pursue practical mysticism, or you would like to know that which is the real path, which book can you adopt, for example, and is there any kind of mizan and any kind of measure that can, or any kind of yardstick that can show you that this book is correct. And thereafter, the unique nature of Avicenna's exposition of practical mysticism, which is a logically based presentation of mysticism. This is what we were just discussing. If you look at the PowerPoint slide, both ilm and irfan are conventionally rendered as knowledge, but there is a subtle difference between the two. Whereas irfan signifies a recognition, the conceptual umbrella of ilm is much comprehensive. It signifies knowledge of the reality of something, whether previously known or not. With regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't know, we don't believe that God had previous knowledge and then he forgot it. There is nothing like that. He is a pre-eternal entity who knew, knows and will know, and has the complete picture of whatever transpires in this world or in the other realms of existence, or whatever will transpire. And because in that realm there is nothing like time. Here when we are talking about things, we say whatever transpired is transpiring and will transpire, but in that realm there is nothing like time. So he has absolute knowledge. This is what scholars of irfan as well as philosophy have come to realize. This is the statement that I just quoted from Al-Furuq al-Lughawiyya. Another thing which is worthy of understanding is when we talk about recognition, we are talking of recovering presential knowledge, not conceptual knowledge. And this is a very important thing. This will also tell you that whenever we talk about irfan, there is nothing like theoretical knowledge that we are talking about. Although there is a classification of irfan, that it is theoretical irfan and practical irfan, but the reality is that there is nothing like that. There is no classification in reality. There is only one irfan which is practical. Why? Because it's a presential knowledge of what you forgot in the higher realm. When you are present with God in that higher realm, or when you are present with God now in the higher realm, because when I talk about when you are present, I don't mean in time, because I'm talking of a kind of ascent and descent in existence. Inshallah, we'll also talk about what kind of ascent and descent we are talking about. This is just because it is a discussion that deals with definition. I don't want to go into great details, but then why do I call irfan to be only practical? That is, something which is through the vision of the heart, and something that a person attains after having, gone through a long process of struggle. That is irfan, and not conceptual knowledge that, you sit in a class and the teacher teaches you about God and His existence and His relation with the human beings and His reality and so on, and His perfections, and how a human being or other entities can come towards Him and travel, infinitely, and all these things are conceptual. This is not irfan. That's what I would like to prove. Usually, the human being's existence begins from the higher plane of existence, and that is God Himself, where he has a clear vision of his Lord, and hence himself. So you see, because God is the creator, and every creator knows the creation in and out with all the subtleties. It is not like conceptual knowledge. No, it's like presential knowledge. Whenever you have a concept in your mind, you know the concept in and out, because it stands by your thinking. That is why you know it in and out. Any kind of creation that you have, when we talk about creation, we are not talking of a kind of, making a computer. When I make a computer and I say, this is my creation, this is not a creation. A creation is something that transpires through emanation. That means whatever I take out with what I have in me. So when I take out that concept and put it in my mind, that is that creation that I have. Now, when you talk about that creation is known by me properly, because I have encompassed in and out of that reality. All right? That is why it is my creation. So with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the whole. This is the belief of course, there are some things which are presumptuous, and because they have been proved in other places. So whenever any kind of doubt or any kind of question comes in your mind, just write it down. When we are going to respond to your questions, then we can discuss on probably the intellectual basis of what we are discussing, because all these things are contentions for you. When I tell you we were in that higher realm and then we descended in this, and it became several stages, all these are contentions for you unless you go through a conceptual journey of understanding the reality of what we are talking about. So the human being's existence begins from the higher plane of existence, where he has clear vision of his Lord, and hence himself, because he is a creation of God. In this lowest station of the terrestrial realm, that is this material realm, the human being forgets what he had, the clear vision he had of in the higher realm. Attaining the previous knowledge requires him to struggle back to the immediate knowledge of himself and his Lord. This is one introduction. The other introduction is that there is a coercive descent, which is called the arc of descent, which is an ongoing process. Now, that is, basically as follows. That you see, when I say that we were in the higher plane and we came in the lower plane, we mean that there has been a descent of existence from God to this lower plane. So whatever you see here shows whatever is in the higher realm, and whatever is in the higher realm shows whatever is in the higher realm up to God. And that is why we believe that everything that you see is a manifestation of the names of God. So whatever you see here, or you see in Barzakh, or you see in the higher realms, all these are manifestations of God, because there is a descent of existence. When I say a descent of existence, what do I mean? Is it a kind of displacement, or is it a kind of manifestation? It is a kind of manifestation. It's not a kind of displacement. It's like, you have knowledge in your mind, and now you want to give it outside. You have it in your mind, but that is in a higher form, in a form which is gathered. And when it comes out in another way. But that doesn't mean that knowledge was lost. When I talk to you about my knowledge, and you get my knowledge, that knowledge is not lost, which was there in the mind. It still is retained. This is what we mean. This is just an example. Another important thing that we should realize is when we talk about the descent of existence, we talk about the gathering of limitations. So as we have the lower planes coming about, there are more limitations gathered up to this level, which has the most limitations and most indeficiencies. As you go higher, you find that the limitations are taken out, the indeficiencies of existence are removed, and then you go up to that level whereby there is absolute existence, which is pure, which has no kind of indeficiency whatsoever. This is what is the arc of descent and the arc of ascent that we are basically talking about. And because of this process also, we come to affirm that when we talk about irfan, we have to talk about practical irfan. When we say this person is an arif, this person is a gnostic or a mystic or a knower, whatever term you would like to know, we say that he is a person who has known through practical vision, not one who has known through conceptual, ratiocination or conceptual intellection and so on. This is a very good allusion which is there in the Holy Quran about this process of the whole arc of ascent and descent. It is summarized in chapter 2, verse number 156, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I just would like to stop a little and take blessing from this verse and look at some of the intricacies that are contained in this verse. If you look at this verse, the context of this verse is this, that, when a person he encounters any kind of calamity, or a person who is really devout, he encounters a calamity, he says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. He utters this, that is, indeed we belong to him, or we belong to Allah, and indeed to him we return. This is what he says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. In fact, after saying this, Allah says, Ula'ika alayhim salawatum min rabbihim. That means, those who just say this are encompassed with Allah's mercy. That means this statement is just not a vocalization. It is a practicalization also. It is something which is very meaningful. It is a journey that a mystic or a gnostic is traveling through, and he is really an active servant of God. And that's why he says that when he says Inna lillah, that means I belong to Allah. That means whatever I have is his, and every entity belongs to him. Wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That means that we are practically going towards him. The word raji'un is also very beautiful. First of all, let's look at these 3 points the way I have enumerated. The first point is that the knowledge of our origin is Allah. That means, the first point of the arc of ascent, that it begins from Allah. And whenever I mention Allah, to those who are non-Muslims or who may try to think that maybe Allah is a certain kind of God which is different from the Christian God, no, it is not that. The word Allah itself is from al-ilah, or from al-ilah. The word ilah comes from the word alaha, and alaha means abada, to worship. So ilah means actually the one who is worshipped. So before it was it pronounces al-ilah, al-ilah, and thereafter that Hamza was taken out, and then it became Allah. So it is, when we talk about Allah, that means the one who is worshipped, all right? And we talk about that pre-eternal God who is infinite. That's what we mean. Anyway, let's continue. What we gain from this verse is, number one, the knowledge of our origin is Him, because whoever we belong to, that is our origin. See, when I talk about whoever we belong to also, it's very important. Conventionally, this is how we think. That if I bought this computer, it belongs to me. This belonging, we call it attributive belonging. It doesn't belong to me ontologically, existentially. I don't have power over this. Somebody can take it, and I don't know what's happening. But sometimes I create this. It emanates from me. So it belongs to me, and not only does it belong to me, but I encompass it every moment. Everything that it has, I have it in my hand. This kind of belonging we are talking about here. Inna lillah. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompasses us completely. Right? Every element of ours. This is how we belong to Him. And why we belong to Him? Because we originated from Him. And then the destination also is mentioned, Inna ilayhi raji'un. Alright? This is the arc of ascent. And then there is a constant journey. Now, this journey, whether you like it or not, happens for everybody. And that is why you find that the word is not inni ilayhi raji'un. Inna ilayhi raji'un. All of us are journeying, whether you like it or not. But the destination depends on your choice and volition. So if those people who are uttering this, and that is why Allah is giving them mercy, are those people who are going to Allah, inna lillah wa inna ilayhi, to all the attributes of Allah, to all the perfections of God. And that is why this third person pronoun, ilayhi, refers to Allah. That means we are not just traveling to one name of God. There are people who are wicked, who don't believe in God, who are, for example, unethical, who behave very badly. They also are traveling to God, but they are traveling to a name of God that will make them be punished. So it is as if they are traveling to a name which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wrath is there, or wrath is there, whatever. So this is very important to know. Some people are traveling to a name which is the kindness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Kareem. He is great. He is generous. All right. So they are traveling to this name. They are those people who have tread or have adopted the right path. But there are some people who have not adopted the right path, and therefore they are deviated. So anyway, when we talk about inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, because this third person pronoun goes to Allah, that means that this traveler says that I am actively traveling to all the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now sometimes a person may say that, when you're talking about traveling to one name and all the names, there is a kind of thought that comes in mind that is Allah divided into different names, and therefore, you are traveling to this name, or no, it's not like that. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is having, different names and He's a compound of those names. No. It is His reality which has different manifestations. And one of the manifestations is one name. The other manifestation is another name, and so on. We have other verses of the Holy Quran. I would like to see the time. Oh, the clock is over there. We do have that. All right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again in chapter 95, verse number 4 to 5, has mentioned a very beautiful verse also, where this journey is mentioned again. the arc of ascent and the arc of descent. He said, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Here, al-insan is human being, any human being. So we certainly created man or human being in the best of forms. Then we relegated him to the lowest of low. That doesn't mean that we made him very wicked. No. Because if he would make a person very wicked, that doesn't make any sense, because many people are born in pure families and good people. It's not a material phenomenon that is talked about. It is a metaphysical and immaterial phenomenon that he takes us to the lowest realm of existence, which is the material realm. This is what is known as ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. And then again in chapter 32, verses 4 to 5, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about a phenomenon that is happening, a very important phenomenon, and that is, see, usually when we look at a baby, how it is born, we think that it is from this terrestrial realm. See, the baby is in the form of a sperm, and then slowly and gradually it grows, and okay, it is in this level and so on. So what we think is that, everything is happening here. But no, the reality is that every existential entity whatsoever, the source is there every moment. So even that sperm, the source is there. Even that clot, the source is there. So there is an arc of descent every moment, and as the clot progresses, there is an arc of ascent every moment. So every moment has an arc of ascent and an arc of descent. This is the reality of the whole phenomenon of this world, whether we like it or not. And that is why you will find some of the traditions have a lot of meaning. That, let's say, a baby which was not born properly because the parents lost the baby, not intentionally obviously, but it went through a process whereby, let's say, the mother fell down and she lost the baby, she miscarried. That miscarried baby is going to be waiting for the parents before they enter paradise. There are some traditions like that in our books of tradition. Now, what does that mean? And we say that, how can they be intellectual? They have not even built any kind of intellect as yet in this world. If you look at the reality in the higher realm, it is something else. It is in this lower realm that we think it is. And that's why, even the Quran puts it very beautifully. إِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُ. Every entity glorifies God and praises God, but you do not comprehend its praise. And this praise is not something which is a kind of ontological vocalization. When I talk about ontological vocalization, I mean it's not something that because the material entity is limited, then it proves that there is a limitless, and this is a kind of glorification. No. There is a verbal kind of glorification, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُمْ. But you cannot comprehend their praise and their glorification. This verse tells us, اللَّهُ الَّذِي خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ. It is God who created the heavens and the earth and whatever is between them in 6 days. Then He settled on the throne. Obviously, these all have a meaning. When we talk about settling on the throne, it doesn't mean that He was sitting on a kind of throne. No, this is